So welcome back to the Extension Master Gardener Training Program. We are now going to be talking about some of the maintenance practices when it comes to turf grass management for the next few sections and lessons. The next one, mowing turf grass. This is going to be one of the most common practices that are done to your turf grass system. Regardless or not, you're going to be mowing it. And if you don't mow it and you live in the city limits, someone's going to call you and tell you to mow it. So it's done on all different grasses, and believe it or not, there's right and wrong ways to mow your grass. I love mowing grass. I think it's very therapeutic. Some studies were done in Australia and found actually the smell of freshly cut grass does something to your brain and releases something or another in there and makes people generally happier. And I like it too because I can't hear my phone ring, and no one really bothers you while you're on your lawnmower too. So it's something that we all have to do, but there's a lot of different aspects when it comes to mowing, and then we'll cover it here. The first thing I want to talk about is the different types of mowers. You have what's called a rotary mower and you have a reel mower. Like reel as in there's a reel that spins around. Most common that we're going to use on home lawns is going to be rotary mowers. Those are cheaper, they're usually at higher mowing heights. Reel mowers are more expensive. They work at very low mowing heights. The difference between these two are kind of explained here in this picture. So a rotary mower is a blade on a shaft. It spins counterclockwise or clockwise depending on your mower, mounted to the motor. And it technically doesn't cut grass. It chops grass because it's spinning at a rapid RPM. It hits the grass blade and chops it off. Where a reel mower, what it does is it has this reel that spins in a circle with multiple blades on it. And it has what's called a bed knife on it. And so when the leaf blade gets caught in between the reel blade and the bed knife, it chops it like a piece of scissors. So actually reel mowers cut grass, rotary mowers chop grass. But we don't use a lot of reel mowers in home lawns because they work better at lower mowing heights. They're more expensive to maintain. Some of these new reel mowers on these big machines are upwards to $20,000, $30,000, $40,000. They have computers on them, just kind of like our cars. Mowers are getting more and more and more expensive. They're spinning reels at different speeds, and this is mainly for golf courses, but not home lawns. For home lawns, we're using rotary mowers greater than 1.5 inches. Now there's some that'll get lower than that, maybe down to 1 inch. We don't see a lot of that. Once you get down to 1 inch, we run into scalping of the ground. Not everybody's lawn is level. There's always a hump, there's always a dip, and so when you get down to 1 inch, you end up bottoming out the mower, and the blade actually hits dirt. So we want to keep up about 1.5 inches. They're easily serviced compared to reel mowers. You got blades and just a general motor. Most of them are push mowers, so you don't have a lot of greasing of multiple moving parts like a reel mower does. Drawback is it can throw rocks and debris. I've been a victim of that, as in when I had my lawn care business. I threw a rock out when I was mowing a lawn. It hit a side window on a car going down the street, so luckily everybody was safe, but you do have that hazard as well. And it did have a flap. Always pay attention to all your safety gear on there, and please utilize that safety equipment on there as well. One part of reel mowers that's really important is the blades. If you maintain a sharp blade, you actually have a better quality of cut. Recommend every 10 hours of use, change your blade or sharpen your blade. I like to keep it at, I'll have two. I have one that's sharp on my workbench, and when that one gets dull, I'm ready to change it out. I don't have to sit there and wait. Most of the time, if you have a dull mower blade, you say, oh, I need to sharpen it, but I don't have a spare with me, I'm just going to mow it anyways. I'll get it sharpened later, and then the next time the same thing. It kind of gets put off and off. So have two mower blades. It's really nice. Switch them in and out. With a dull mower blade, you end up ripping it more than chopping it. And when you rip it, it does multiple things to the grass blade. It first gives it an ugly appearance to the lawn. A healthy lawn, green and lush, mowed with a dull mower blade will now have a brown tint to it, because the leaf tips are going to be brown, and that's what you're going to see at the top. And then we start thinking something else is going on. We start turning the water up. Then we start mowing it more. We start fertilizing it more, and it's getting browner and browner because we're mowing it with a dull mower blade. So that's one thing. Another thing it does is because you're ripping it, it's not a clean cut. It's just like a wound that maybe if we fall on ourselves. And so you have a large surface area that your body now, or that plant has to recover and fix. Where if it was a small surface area, like a small cut, our bodies or that plant doesn't have to require a lot of energy to repair that wound. Also, the bigger the wound is, the more opportunity to infection from disease and other pathogens as well. Just like, say, if we have an open wound on our body as well. So make sure you sharpen your blades every 10 hours. That's a good general rule, and it does create a healthy lawn. Now, how high do you mow your lawns? Here we have examples of the turfgrass species that we grown here in Kansas and the recommended heights. Try not to pay attention too much about the quarters, the halves, the 3/4. These are the textbook heights. I know your lawnmower may mow at 2 1/4, but yours may mow at 2 1/2 type of thing. The easiest way to determine how high your mower is, you can do this small ruler, tape measure, brick methods, which require you to unplug the mower, measure and everything. Just go, start at the highest mowing height, mow your grass, stick a tape measure in it and see how high it is. Knock it down 1 notch, mow again, see how high it is, so you know notch F equals 4 inches, notch E equals 3 1/2, or so on and so forth type. Is the easiest way to determine. Now, don't worry too much. For example, like 2 3/4 of an inch, 3 1/2 inches for fescue is a good round number when it comes to it. Kentucky bluegrass, 2 to 3 1/2, 3 inches is good. Bermuda and zoysia, you can get pretty low, 9/16. I know some guys mowing it a 1/2 inch, but that's on golf courses. Home lawns, we're using rotary mowers. Stick around that 2-inch mowing height. Works really well for Bermuda and zoysia. Buffalo, it says 2 inches, 3 inches, or no mow. Buffalo is a unique grass in that if you let it go, it gets about 8 inches tall and doesn't really get much taller than that. Where like fescue will keep just getting taller and taller, and you'll have a wild Amazon on your hand after too long. So some people do like buffalo grass and put it on back parts of their property, because then they'll only mow it maybe once a year with a bush hog or something. They won't go and have to mow it, but right around the house is all they're really concerned about. So make sure you know how high it is. Like I said, just mow a couple strips, figure out how high it is. If you measure from the edge of the mowing deck to the ground, you're going to have the incorrect height. The mower blade is actually set up underneath that deck for safety purposes. So if you touch the outside of the deck, it wouldn't hit a toe. So actually, if your mowing height is going to be a little bit higher than the edge of the deck to the ground. So like I said, the easiest way is just to go out, mow it at the highest, measure how tall it is type of thing. So that's how high. Now how often? This is where it gets a little fun and not scientific to how often you mow your grass. So we like to stick to what's called the 1/3 rule. So in order to avoid stressing the turf, do not remove more than 1/3 of the leaf blades. The leaf blades are solar panels. The solar panels collect energy from the sun and make energy in the plant. So that plant is able to withstand removing 1/3 of that leaf blade or solar panel and still be healthy and survive and grow. When you start removing more than that, when you start removing too much photosynthetic material, it injures the plant. It can cause, some other detrimental effects. So don't remove more than 1/3. Now this is kind of a guideline. It is hard to go out and measure every time type of thing and figure out how often you need. You go on vacation sometimes, maybe in a couple of days, may get a little bit longer, it may rain, you may do it, sooner type of thing. But that might mean you might need to mow more than once a week instead of my Friday tradition of mowing as soon as I get home from work so it looks good for the weekend. Because grass grows according to those curves, remember? So it's going to be growing faster certain times of the year and slower other times of the year. So what I like to think of is, look, we have this chart right here. To maintain the 1/3 rule, say we wanted to maintain tall fescue or another grass at 2 inches. You wait till it gets 3 inches, and then you can mow 1 inch off, and so you're back to 2. If you want to maintain it 3 inches, you can wait till it gets 4.5 inches, and you're taking 1.5 inches off. If you wanted to maintain your lawn at 2 inches or 3 inches, which one do you think would you have to mow more often according to this rule? A 2 inch or a 3 inch? 2 inch. That's exactly right, because regardless of how high you're mowing it, the grass grows at the same speed. So if it's growing 1/2 inch a day, you can see if you're maintaining it 2 inches, it's going to grow up to 3 inches in two days. So you have to mow 2 days. If you wanted to maintain it at 3 inches, you can wait till it gets to 4.5, and so it takes 3 days to get to that height before you to remove it. So actually, the higher you mow it, the less mowing you have to do. Not the lower you mow it. My grandfather liked to mow it as low as it would go, but the higher you mow, the less mowing you actually need to do to your lawn. A lot of people is a misconception, but it's definitely true. This is why golf course putting greens, they mow every day, because they can only take a little bit off because they're maintaining it at such a short mowing height. Another part of mowing that to talk about is clipping management. This is excessive clippings, so we would definitely have to do something about it. But clippings are free resources. It is free food for your lawn. After carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen, the 3 most abundant elements in that plant is nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. Well, guess what? That's what's in the fertilizer bag you're buying. So if you don't have to, don't bag your clippings. You can use a mulching blade, side discharge, let them lay on the lawn. If you want to, some people use it as compost. Make sure that you compost them good enough before you put them in different areas. That's a whole nother section of composting, education, training. We won't get into it. But if you remove your clippings, say you collect your clippings, you have to add 25% more fertilizer to get the same goal or the same result as if you would have just left your clippings there. So if you take your clippings off, then when we come to our fertilizer program, you got to add 25% more than what we typically recommend. And that's costing time and is also costing money to do. And so if you have the nutrients there, just let them go. And put them in, keep them in the lawn, not in the driveway or the road. The concrete does not grow faster with the nutrients or fertilizer applied to it. Not to mention the issue of storm drains, where if you get this, because it does contain nutrients, it can cause problems in rivers and streams down the road. So please make sure you get it out of the street, just blow it back into the yard. And this goes with fertilizer and everything else too. Now another question that I get is, what about your mowing pattern? Do I need to change it up? Do I need to switch it up? Mowing is kind of an art. You see these fancy lines and stripes and curves on athletic fields and golf courses, but you can do it to your home lawn too. But we do recommend switching it up. So when you mow your lawn, it actually lays that grass blade down just a little bit. And one side of that grass blade is more shiny than the other. And so if you look at a lawn that has the stripes in it, if you see a light stripe, that means that mower is mown away from you. If you see a dark stripe, it means it's mown back towards you. So you don't want to keep doing it that same way every time over and over. You want to switch it and rotate it. So you can mow it north-south one time, east-west, southwest and northeast, northeast, southwest, whatever. Switch it up a little bit and do different patterns type of thing. A lot of people have to mow in irregular patterns due to trees, shrubs, other things going on, but just try and switch it up the best you can. Helps that grass able to withstand the different things in the way the leaf blade is laying. Last thing I do want to mention, not just your blades need attention on the lawnmower, but the rest of the lawnmower also needs attention too. Make sure it's always greased, it's up to service date with the manufacturer recommendations. You don't want this to happen on your lawn. So mower maintenance is important. If you don't know, there's a lot of people out there that can do mower maintenance for you. I typically take my mower in the fall because we finish mowing and it's going to be set for the winter anyways. Take it to get serviced in the fall. It comes back. I'm not going to use it all winter, but when it's time to start using it in the spring, it's already ready to go. I don't have to think about it because the rush is usually in the spring to get mowers maintained because everybody forgets about it. This includes the mowing section of the programming. We have a lot of information in the handbook in Chapter 7, as well as a lot of extension publications here at the K-State KSRE bookstore with clippings, mowing, and the professional series, as well as some Kansas City Healthy Yards videos. Additional information. We'll cover maybe a little bit more in-depth stuff that we covered today. So with that concludes Section 3, and we'll be back to talk more about fertility in soil in Lesson 4.